Hey everyone, today I'm doing something different. I get comments in my chat stream all the time that are like, I can't get legend, I don't get it, I just can't beat this deck, I'm losing, I can't beat Thief Rogue, I can't beat Druid, I can't beat this. And I wanted to kind of see what mistakes kind of typical players were making. And I already get some of that from coaching, but I did this contest where if you submitted a replay, the mistakes I thought were the most shameful. And I would highlight, and then we're going to actually do a vote later this week. Once I know the date, I'll put it in the chat, the comments below. You guys will vote, and the winner with the most shameful mistake will win a bundle provided by Blizzard. But yeah, we're going to be looking at games. And one of the big things I want to be talking this is I'm going to be looking for the egregious mistakes. But one of the first things I've been noticing is everyone is making so many technical mistakes, especially with technical decks. The technical decks I didn't end up even highlighting because there were so many mistakes, they weren't even as interesting because there were just so many, getting the correct order right, or technical decks are technically more difficult. So, and I was looking for more the high level decks and even the high level mistakes that maybe the small technical mistakes that had high level implications. But one of the things that I was trying to not do is just be nitpicky on everything. But the reality is, you guys are making tons of mistakes. And the thing is, if you watch top 100 pros, they're making tons of mistakes. So you're like, well, I see the pros are making mistakes. Why are they top 100? Are they just lucky? And the reality is, you guys are making even more mistakes. Pros are making mistakes. Everyone making lots of mistakes. That's why if you do play your deck really well and you master it, you can get number one legend, because the reality is everybody's making lots of mistakes. So bottom line, we're going to go through some games, and I'm going to go up to often the point where I think the first terrible, unforgivable, shameful mistake happens. The mistakes that, how will you ever get legend if you're making this mistake? It's kind of like when you're watching, if you're watching like a romantic comedy or one of these train wreck movies where the main character is just somehow throwing their life away over and over and over again, and somehow they get bailed out. I feel like that happens a lot. So we're going to be going over some games, and yeah, let's go. So first we have this game of Cassetto versus a Relic Demon Hunter versus a Druid. And they go hero power on 1. They do a very reasonable play the Relic on 2. And here comes their first mistake, is they really should go location here. You can't see the location in the HS replay, and then go Relic of Extinction. And they just tempo this brand. One is this brand is valuable, but I think it's reasonable to tempo. But the big thing is, what are we trying to do here to win? We want to go Relic of Dimensions. And we want to draw a bunch of cards and win the game. And by not using these Relic of Extinctions, you can't get as good of a relic. So when you use the location in the relic here, that sets up for turn 5, because it takes a turn for the relic to the location to get ready, and then on turn 5 you would get the draw. Instead of drawing 4 cards and getting discounts of 1 and 2, you could get discounts of 3 and 4, which is massively better. You could even use the second relic, but I think this is a very common mistake that players make, is making I need to get value out of this resource. So they're like, well, why would I use this Relic of Extinction when I could use it to minion? And the reality is, often we have hand space issues, we have tempo issues, there's reasons where sometimes, we play Brand just as a 2/4. So I think they saw that's okay there, but really they should have been better off to hold the Brand and use these relics to get a really powerful Relic of Dimension on 5 and win the game from that. So they also don't. On this next turn, they just hero power as well, where I'm like, why aren't you going Prosecutor here? This is also a huge mistake. You going by Prosecutor, I think it's a thing of the opponent's like, well, I want to save this for a big turn. This is another kind of a classic saving the value mistake. And this is very, very common. Players think, I want to wait for the perfect time to play this card. And really, by playing this card here, what's the big thing that playing this card does? Only your left and right cards can be played. What does that mean? They can't play the coin. What does that mean? They can't go coin nourish. And we know they have nourish in hand because they went the 2-1. So this is a really, really bad mistake as well. And then they do the right play of the location 5-drop. But I just want you to see if they'd done the relic of the previous turn, what do these cost? This costs 0, this costs 1, this costs 0. You can play the relic, and if you'd played both, it would actually cost, which I think would be the right play, but I might have played the prosecutor on 4. But if we had played both and just gone all in on this play, well, guess what? When you do this, the Blade Master costs 0, the Relic costs 0. You go this, and then you get 2 6/6s. You get a Blade Master, and you get a Chaos Strike, and you'd block a spell, and you'd win the game. So now they end up winning this game anyways, but the game could have been such an easy win, but they made their life hard for themselves by not just going for the tempo win condition. And the tempo win condition is the easiest way to win Hearthstone. What is the tempo win condition? I just play a bunch of stuff, my opponent can't answer it, and I kill him. That is the tempo win. What's the value win condition? We're trading stuff for stuff. So when you have these relic distinctions, they're very, very good for a value war because not only are they 1 mana, but like often, you might in the late game kill 2 8/8s with the relic. So if you're trying to win a value war, it makes sense to hold on. But the reality, we're better off just going for high tempo, killing our opponent, getting stuff on board, winning the game. So next, we've got a game of a Thief Rogue versus an Alignment Druid. And there's some technical mistakes in the early game on this one. You can see they take a Perjury from their sketchy here. And then they play this Perjury beforehand, which activates the Maestra. They could have hero powered here and gotten this kill. And that's a pretty big technical mistake. That's a classic order mistake. And so often, interestingly enough, the first thing we decide we want to do is the last thing we want to do in Hearthstone. So let's say we decide, I want to play Perjury this turn. Well, so that costs 3 mana, right? We have to decide what we want to use for the rest of the 3 mana. I'm going to move my head over to let's see, let's move over to here so we can see the mana crystals real quick. Actually, let's go right here. All right. So we decide at the beginning of the turn, all right, I want to use my 3 mana here. But what am I going to do with the rest of them? So I have 3 mana. I want to go Perjury here, right? What do I use with the rest of my mana? Well, I have nothing to use. So I have hero power. Okay. Well, if I go Perjury, which order is correct? And we want to go hero power first because we lose that hero power after we go Perjury. So often when you decide what you want to do in Hearthstone, you have to do the thing you want to do the most last. So let's say you always want to go double cross. Well, you have to decide last because you might want to do other things first. And that's a very, very common thing. And that's annoying for players because they say, oh, I want to kill this minion. Let's say it's a must remove minion. That's the first thing they want to do. And they do that first. And then they're like, oh, what do I do with the rest of my mana? And they're like, oh, I should have done this first. So figuring out what you want to do with all your mana in one turn is ideally what you do. Sometimes you have time pressure. Players break this rule all the time. Pro players break this rule all the time. But it's good best practices. Next turn they do this, and this is reasonable to your opponent has a nourish in hand. Getting rid of this Cane, 2 mana crystals is really big. Unfortunately, your opponent has another nourish, but yeah, they go do a sprint here, and their opponent eventually, nothing's really happening, and your opponent goes alignment, and it's an interesting spot where it looks like the opponent's way ahead, and Hoyt here actually pulls off. Gets the Colossal from the Queen here and pulls off this really, really good play on the next turn you're going to see that really keeps them in the game. And it's a great play. And it's why I like this game so much because they did this amazing play and then they end up losing from technical mistakes. So they go the Glug and they do the correct order here where they trade this first, play this, then trade. And then they go... I think they play this and then they go the Contraband Stash here. So they get another Glug. So they have 2 Glugs on board, which is huge. So they have 2 Glugs. The opponent does the Spreading Plague play here. And this is kind of annoying. They can't play anything. But they do also do another great play that I like, that they intentionally don't kill off their Scarabs. So they kind of make their opponent clear off their own stuffs. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I kind of like the idea behind it. It's an interesting line for sure. and they make it so their opponent does Alex Strauss of this 5/7. But yeah, you can see how their order ended up really helping them here, and they get all the stats here. And so what they do here is, this is what I'm talking about, the complicated stuff where they know they want to attack with their glug, but they do it first. So what they do is they get the secret, which is not really, I think I probably take Visage there. They go Tooth first because they want to discover, and they don't really, they think they take Rings of Courage. And here's a spot where now what they do is they go Weapon Hit and they go then they go Trade, and then they go Theotar. And this is such a bad mistake because they could have gotten Scale here. And if they got Scale, which they did take, what they can do is go Theotar here, take the Scale, play the Scale, go trade, all right? And they could also go for another Theotar. They could go for an Ajak, but they go trade after that. And they do one more trade, and then after that, their glug gets 10 additional attack, so they can do 32 to their opponent's face. That seems pretty darn good to me. If they want to Shadow Step the Theotar, they can do even more damage. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to push 34 face. They can Najak. There's a lot of different plays they could do, but this order was just so bad. And for trading, when they could have gone the Scale here, it just wrecked their opponent. But then they get a second chance. Their opponent does this. And what's really sad here is they do this Ring of Courage, and they go Scale here. And they do their trades here. And what they go into is, I want to control the board instead of I want to get lethal. So they do these trades here, and then they go Tess. And what they should be doing here is so what they should be doing here. So they should go do the Scale play here, and then what they can do is. And they do the trade of the Theotar, and then they do this Weapon Hit here. So they lose a damage. You see that? And then they go Theotar trade, and this is like, oh, they're in board control mode. But really, that weapon, they have to hold that minion on board and not trade it off. And then they're supposed to go Tess here. And if they went Tess here, they would have gone this 2/1 here and traded. And then this would have been at 45. They would have gone face and Weapon Hit for 46 and had lethal. So it was a miss lethal. And why was it ended up? Because they went that Weapon Hit first instead of doing the right order of playing all their Scale stuff, playing all their stuff. And then if they don't have lethal, they can decide to Weapon Hit. But they should have done that first, and then they would have had 45 attack and had the lethal. This is such a tragic mistake. And I think what's so tragic about this game is the player actually made great plays, really went for a great high-level line. So a high-level line is kind of, there's the micro of Hearthstone, and there's the macro. The macro is like, how am I trying to win? And they get this glug, and they go for this glug win condition, and it's a great line. It's a great way to stay in the game against an alignment druid, which is almost usually considered a for sure loss. And they could have won it, but they made technical mistakes that cost them the game. Really tragic, real sad. Rest in peace. So I think this is one of my favorite choices. So yeah. Our next game, another Thief Rogue. You can see this deck is quite common. And I'm not going to go over all the misplays. They do some stuff I don't necessarily like, but they're kind of playing stuff. And they kind of do this play. They get a Flame Strike, and then first big thing they do, the big mistake I didn't like, is they go Theotar here, and they see these guys, and they take one of them. And but I think, well, and then their opponent mistakenly doesn't shadow kill the Theotar, so they're able to do it again because they couldn't do it last turn because the Theotar is expensive. And then they go this Devour Mind here, and I think this Devour Mind is kind of a rough spot where like it's awkward here. I think I would have preferred them just go for the Artificer to get an 8/8 and draw 2. The Devour Mind is a lot of sort of potential value, but yeah. So then but it's okay, and they go this Chaos Strike here, and they kill this, and they play the Wild Unknown, and everything looks really good. And their opponent gets this double Relic here, into the Kurtrus. And then they do a play that is almost always losing. They go Lady Thanos into Jackpot here. And this is just always losing. You know, they did all this good stuff, but your opponent does something strong, and they don't even know the second relic is in. You have to answer this board. So the plays you can do here is you could go Lady Thanos Relic, and you have a good chance of, you know, if you hit, you have a lot of 1-mana spells you could hit. You could go Artificer here, which if you get the 2 damage on it twice, you can get the kill on this. And those are your 2 big plays to do here. But I think that this Lady plus Jackpot is always losing. You could go Jackpot trying to hit something like Flame Strike or the Spreading Plague, for example, to hit. But you know when you go Lady into this, that's a 5-mana play. You're never going to get anything you can play off this. So this is just always losing. Your opponent can do the hero power, and you're always down to 2 life. And so your opponent only needs 2 damage to win. So it's just a play that they did kind of a really great lines to take out their stuff, only to kind of do a play of like, what are you hoping for this? What are you hoping this Jackpot gives you? Because it's always 5 or more. So you're better off going for, you could draw with Relic. You could just play Jackpot. You could play Artificer here. Artificer draws you cards and potentially gets you a kill on there. All those are valid plays. This was not one of them. Yeah, and then they end up losing to a Fellow Barrage despite kind of stabilizing because they're at 2 life. So yeah. Next we've got a game. This was a game of setting up lethal poorly. So our opponent, the deck, we kind of play a Wildfire. We're pinging stuff off. You know, we're kind of not doing anything that crazy. Do a nice setup for the Magister, gets the Magisters down. First of all, their ping is at 4 damage right now, right? And they top deck this Wildfire. And what they can do here, this is played first. They could go Reckless here, kills this, all right? And pushes 5 damage, all right? The opponent's going to be at 24, and then they can push another 7. So they can push 12, putting their opponent down to 17. What does this do for us? One is this sets up a great Mordress, so we can do. But 2, it sets us up where we can go Frozen Touch, Ping, and Solid Alibi the next turn and secure a guaranteed lethal with Mordress. So the following turn is they end up pinging this 4/5, and they're thinking, oh, I want to get the upgrade, but they could have gotten the Reckless upgrade here first, and they by doing this play get the ping off the 1/1s, but the 1/1s don't matter. Your board doesn't matter. You have everything you need to win from hand, and this is kind of a playing to your win condition, knowing how to set up a win, set up a lethal when you have everything you need. Often in Hearthstone, you're kind of fighting for board, and you get to a spot where you have everything you need to get a guaranteed lethal. Let's say you're, a hunter, and you have, aim shot, and your opponent, you can put your opponent down to 7 life. If you have 5 mana the next turn, you have a lethal, and you should do that. And then your opponent, there's almost nothing. They have to heal. They have to stop. There's usually, it's very hard for them to stop that if they're not a healing class. So they do this play here. And they kind of control the board a little bit, and then they do this ping play here. And this is another game losing mistake. They do the Frozen Touch here, and they do the Solid Alibi, and then they don't do the second Frozen Touch here. They float 2 mana, and they're thinking, well, I want to save this Frozen Touch, right? I want to get more value out of it. But here's the thing, your opponent's going to be at 9 mana here. When you go Mordress here, you always win next turn. But because you clear their whole board, you put them down to 0. But by not going the Frozen Touch, you don't set up that lethal. This is another case of not setting up the lethal. So what do they do next turn? They go the Mordress. It's looking okay. Oh, wait. Sire is a card. Their opponent goes trade Sire, and then bam, dead. Tragic. So this is a classic case of, this was a game that Ashen Soul should have won 100% of the time, and they didn't set up a lethal. Very tragic. Yeah. Very bad mistakes and had multiple chances to win this game and through. So very sad. So next we've got, this one was really bad. I already remember this one. So they're playing stuff. They're getting some stuff. They're doing the harpoon gun. They get a nice mountain bear off this. They go the Insurance Saber here. And I'm going to highlight something. What I like about this play is my opponent, we could have gone Spirit Poacher, Wild Spirits. We could have gone something Ramming Mount. But the opponent we just played the Mountain Bear. I think this is great. The amount of players I've seen, I have 3 students who have done this exact same mistake where they have a 5-mana Mountain Bear and they just don't play it. If you're one of my students and you see this, you know who you are. They're just not playing the Mountain Bear. And it's like, it's a 5 mana, 5/6. It's got 2/4s in it. Spirit Poacher, Wild Spirit's okay too. You know, something with ramming mount, you like not great, but you're spending your mana, you're doing stuff. But I think people just they don't appreciate just the simple play of just playing a bunch of stats. And this deck, one of the things it does well is play as a bunch of awkward stats. So great play. Playing the Mountain Bear. I just want to highlight that. Then they play a Spirit Poacher and a Wild Spirits. They get a bunch of stuff on board. Their opponent does stuff, and they get the Sunken Saber here out. They pull it out. They start pushing damage. They trade this. Nice plays. They get this 4/3 out. They have a lot of stuff. Their opponent does a Rune of the Archmage. A lot of bad stuff happens. They get a 12/12, but they've got this nice Hydralodon answer for the 4/5. And then comes the Deathborn. And it looks real bad, but except for the fact that you get all your Hydralodon packs back because it did not kill the Hydralodon. So they end up trading on the Hydralodon here, and so they ping this off. And this is a spot where they have lethal, not guaranteed, but kind of guaranteed. So what happens right now? They have 12, 15, 17 damage on board. Now, collateral damage, if it hits three of these, it does 12 damage, right? So 17 plus 12 is 29 for a lethal. But if it hits the Deathwing, what happens? Well, if it hits the Deathwing, we, instead of doing 29 damage, we do, so we have the 12, we have the 14, we have the 17, we do 1, 4, 4, we do 9. So we're 26 damage, one off, right? So what they do is they go the collateral damage first, and then these things ping their guys off, and they don't win here. Very, very sad. Where all they had to do was go all face, then you go collateral damage, right? If it hits the Deathwing, that's good, right? If it hits the Deathwing, that's good because the Deathwing dies. I mean, it's not as good as lethal, but now you don't have to worry with the Deathwing. And you're fine to kill them next turn with the hero power. If it doesn't hit the Deathwing, you win the game. So this is just a classic order. And this is what I said earlier. Often, I want to go collateral damage. So the first thing I'm going to do is go collateral damage, except you kill off your stuff. So you have to decide, I want to go collateral damage. Okay. Now do I decide, do I go face or do I go trade with my minions? Because let's say you didn't have lethal here. You might have to do some trades. You might have to do stuff like that first to minimize risk. But you don't have to do that here because you have lethal. So yeah, you go all face, you go collateral damage, you win the game. It's rough. It's rough. And our last one, so we've got they got a wildfire here. They're pinging stuff off again, and they ping this, and their opponent plays another Trog here. And this was just a kind of game that they were kind of not doing great, but what they end up doing this is a very bad technical mistake that just like gives them zero chance of winning here. They go Solid Alibi and then ping. So when they go Solid Alibi, well, how much damage are they taking here? 5, right? If they had just not done anything here, and even not pinged, they would have taken 6. So why are they going Solid Alibi? I guess they can deny hero power, but they were better off just pinging off this peasant here and ignoring the board. And not playing Solid Alibi. That puts them in a spot where next turn they can go Sir Finley and try and hit the 4-drop and get a full clear. So I think this was a spot where we often feel we have to do something. So we think, oh, I can't take this damage. I'm going to play Solid Alibi. And then by doing something, we actually are worse off than if we have done nothing. So one of the first things you learn in Hearthstone is do something. And, if you have a beginner student, they're floating mana, they're holding stuff back, and you say, do something. So you say, oh, play the Solid Alibi, play your mana, spend things, do things. But with cards like Trog, you often have to do nothing. And that's really tough. So I think it was a spot where they could have pinged off this Trog first. They do the Solid Alibi and then they ping. So if they pinged off the Trog first, it doesn't get a 1-2. So just another technical mistake. So this was just kind of, they weren't in a great spot here, but they kind of just took their chances of winning and threw it out the window. So yeah, that's all I've got. There were some other games that got submitted. I looked at them. I think a lot of them had so many technical mistakes, but not really interesting mistakes. And some of them were so loaded with mistakes that it's hard or incorrect orders. And some of them I could tell they're mistakes, but I wasn't sure. I got a few submissions from Blessed Priest, and I'm not technically mastered on Blessed Priest, so it's hard didn't want to really give bad advice on that where because certain decks have so much technicality in it. It's hard for me to evaluate because it's not a technical decks. You have to put to technical mastery. So anyways, I hope you guys like this. I might want to do this again. So out of these games, you're going to have a chance to vote probably on Friday, but I will put it in the comments when I know for sure, or you can come to my stream and ask. But yeah, thanks everyone for submitting. Yeah. Hopefully you guys stop throwing and get that legend, but it's okay. Everybody throws, all right? You know, the great players hang in there, throw, and still find a win. And that's what I really like. My two favorites probably are both this game as Shaman and this game as Mage, or this game where with the where is it? Oh, was it this one? Oh, this one with the Mage into the this, because the opponent, both players threw 2 times. They missed a almost for sure win, and they got another chance, and then they threw again. So often in life, you know, you're going to get an opportunity, you're going to throw it out the window, and then you're going to be mad at yourself, and then you're going to miss another opportunity. So hang in there. Everybody throws. Get back in the ring and get that win. All right. So if you watch even my recent Beast Hunter to #1 legend, there's a game where I do a throwing play and I hang in there and I still win the game and get #1 legend. So that's what I got for you guys. Hope you guys like this. I want to do this again. So if you guys like this might become a regular series, why you can't get a legend. So anyways, talk to you guys later. Everyone, if you made it all the way to the end, chances are you really like this content. So thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. If you want to show your support of the live content, feel free to like and subscribe. Liking and subscribing always helps the algorithm to show that you like it, so the thing is more likely to give it to other people. In addition to that, if you are always wanting a No Hands Gamer video, but some days I don't put one out because I don't know what to do, we have another channel, which is the No Hands Gamer VODs, which is the raw, unedited content from my Twitch, where you get to see everything on the YouTube format. I highly recommend you go check that out, so you can get your No Hands Gamer fix every day, even when I don't put out a normal YouTube video. Hope to see you guys in the next video.